Hi everyone, we're week 2 into Spring Cup and we decided to stream earlier today on the Purple channel, and Bubble Mouse came up with this team that she's been running and made it all the way to the 2600s with it. So we decided to try it out. It's a bit more of a technical team, so I think from my skill set it wasn't, I'm not so good at it, but we did manage to get some wins. So let's go through some of these battles. Hi, if you're new, I'm Debbie Pebble. Please drop a subscribe below, drop a like, drop a comment. I would really appreciate it as we grow the channel, and we'll get into the battles. We have a Shadow CACTURNE, which has been a lot of fun as in the lead, and then we've got Klefki and Jellicent as well. So as Spring Cup has developed from our first video to this video, a lot of different Pokemon have come into the fold, so we have to kind of cover around these ranges. So let's get started in the battles. All right, into this first game, we can see that we're going straight into Lapras, which, like, you think a grass type would do okay, but these Psy waves do add up pretty quick, so we want to try and get to a Trailblaze. It does get to the Sparkling Aria first, and because we are Shadow type, it does take quite a hit. However, we'll get to the Trailblaze, and it goes into a Quagsire, which is exactly what we want to see. Does it shield? They do not shield. The Swagsire is gone, so not only they have to bring their Lapras back out, we can possibly get to the next Trailblaze to knock out this Lapras, and we're boosted as well. So not only has our attack risen, this is going to do so much more, you know, with double attack has been raised, and Shadow and Stab. It's ridiculous. It is such a powerhouse, but very, very frail. So now that we've already taken out one Quagsire, we've got this Lapras already into the red, we can safely bring out this Klefki. The Klefki is going to do quite a bit of damage. We can almost farm it down from this point just to grab as much energy as possible. And in the back they have an Azumarill. So we have that Jellicent all the way with full health in the back. This is a quite comfortable win, and we just keep chipping and chipping it down. We also have 2 shields in play, so really at this point we can just be like, thank you Klefki, you've done your job. Even hangs on with an Ice Beam. We can get to the next foul play to just chip away. Obviously it's not super effective, however, why not throw it at this point? They decide to shield, even better. And from here, they are shieldless. We're going straight for the Shadow Ball. They go for their last move here. Whether it's Play Rough, Ice Beam, it doesn't really matter. This Jellicent can take so much as well. So we get to the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be launched, will connect and take out almost this Azumarill. Doesn't quite. We have to do a couple more hexes, and that is game. Into game 2, and we're against a Dugong. So what we learnt further into the games is that if we see a Dugong, we need to switch out. For me, I was stubborn. I stayed in for a little bit. I didn't even get to the Trailblaze because I was like, okay, let's get out of here. So we're in a really sticky spot. I safe switch into the Jellicent, and now they brought out their Shadow Venusaur. So this is really like, ooh, I've made a mistake here, but we'll see if we can salvage. Well, they go for the Frenzy Plant, knocks out our Jellicent, so I'm like, okay, thank you Jellicent, you've done your job here. We bring out the Klefki. The Klefki can do quite a bit of damage and be able to sustain both Sludge Bomb and the Frenzy Plants, at least be able to take one. So we know that we could just, you know, not shield there. We shield the second one because here we're just trying to get energy. We're so behind, we need to get in front here. So now we've got so many foul plays ready to go. We've got almost like 2.5 here, so we can go back to back if we wanted to, and they go for their move here. I believe this is the Icy Wind, and we shield because really the key here is just to try and protect the Klefki. Bubble Mouse basically said the instructions for this particular team is gather as much energy as you can for the Shadow CACTURNE, do as much damage, save the shields for Klefki to clean up in the back. Now, really, in this situation, I've got one CACTURNE, I'm getting Shadow Clawed down, I've got one Trailblaze, they've got one shield, so I was like, oh gosh, okay, they shielded. At this point, I thought it was game over. Surely a Hydro Cannon takes me out from here. I'm Shadow. What is it going to do? So it hangs here. I have a glass of water. I come back. They didn't knock me out, and I was like, oh no, they left the game. So possibly this person, the opponent, may have got to a point where they're just like, oh, I've already won, maybe you've walked away, done the same thing as me, gone and get another glass of water, and we end up just keep tapping because this was a very much a game that I was already convinced we lost, but because they stopped tapping, we won. All right, into game 3, and we see a Golisopod. So with the Golisopod, I wasn't sure if we should have stayed in or not, but apparently this is a pretty good situation. We don't shield, thinking it's an Aquajet. It was an X-Scissor. So I was like, oh, there goes my Cacturne. So again, a lot of fun with Cacturne, but it's very, very volatile. Now, we bring in our Jellicent. We can absorb quite a bit here, so we don't shield, just absorb, absorb, absorb. We need to gather energy here. We are so behind. Again, that Cacturne is now gone, and yeah, we were just so behind. So we get to the Surf, we launch the Surf, they shield the Surf. We get to the second one here, and we, like I said, just trying to get as much energy as possible. They're still on their first mod, so now they bring out the second. We can see they actually brought in, I believe, a Trevenant and then into the Lapras. So we know what's the Pokemon in the back in this situation. They bring in their Shadow Lapras and go for the Sparkling Aria, and we can launch the Foul Plays here. Now the Foul Plays get there quite quick, which is really convenient, especially something like Klefki that I thought was a bit frail, but hey, it's not actually that bad. It actually can take a few hits, and yeah, so I was really, really surprised with that. We play rough, the Lapras, there's no shields remaining, and now it's a Trevenant, and then we've got Foul Play that, again, we can get really quickly to, so we can take the Trevenant off the field, because this is super effective, and that's game on that one. All right, into the next game, I'm against a Togetic. So Togetic, we probably want to get out of here. Now, with the Fairy Winds, it's going to be super effective against Cacturne, Shadow Cacturne. So now we are into our Jellicent, and they respectively switch into their Golisopod. And here, basically, again, it's like, okay, we didn't win lead here, so we're gonna have to try and win in this section to try and get a bit of a lead. So we go straight Shadow Ball here, just to be like, look, let's do as much damage as possible. They don't shield that particular move, so we know that, you know, whatever they launch here, we should be able to handle, because Jellicent is so bulky. We'd be able to hex down, and we basically win switch. Now they got their Togetic, we have enough energy to actually even launch a Surf, which is great. So that for that chip damage, so that Togetic is now about 60% of health. So we're not bringing that Cacturne. That Cacturne doesn't want to see it. So we bring in the Klefki. So again, Klefki has a lot of, I suppose, coverage in Spring Cup. So if you have a Klefki, I think it's worth running. I already had a Klefki made, so that was quite handy. And now we're against a Gastrodon. So the Gastrodon is definitely what the Klefki doesn't want to see. In this particular team, Bubble Mouse did mention that it's quite weak to fire types. And if you don't want to get that Klefki into a mud boy. So if you see a Gastrodon, get out of there. So we switched into our Shadow Cacturne to take out the Gastrodon. Over here in this situation here, we can take the Aero S because we know Klefki has so much energy, we can Astonish down. So we've got a shield. Even with the Aero Ace, if it had, we had Psy Shock of all things. I thought it might have Ancient Power, but in this situation, we just Astonish down. So we finished up in that particular game. On to the next one. So we see a Tentacruel, and I thought this was a good situation until I saw the fast attacks come through. I was like, oh no, we need to get out of here. But I was stubborn, so I went for the Trailblaze instead. Key fact, get out of here. If you're in this situation, switch out. Don't do what I did here. Get out in this situation. So we lost our Cacturne, but hey, they shielded. So that was to our benefit because now we're in a shield lead. We can bring out the Jellicent quite comfortably here. The Jellicent is able to absorb anything from Tentacruel. So if you see a Tentacruel, Jellicent is definitely the way to go. As mentioned in the previous video, Jellicent is just so bulky. It's able to just be a sponge in this situation and able to take all of these hits from Tentacruel. Now we have heaps of energy. They bring out a Ferrothorn. Now with these, we've got almost 2 Shadow Balls that we can go back to back, able to launch a second one here. So they have to decide whether they shield or not in this particular situation, and decide not to shield. Actually, they're shieldless. I forgot about that. And we can now safely bring in our Klefki. Klefki against Marwile. Now Marwile is something that's a bit scary to see because of the Fire Fangs. The Fire Fangs will chip down really quickly. However, in this particular situation, they haven't been boosted with the Power Up Punch yet. So we're going to do as much damage with the Foul Plays, just chip and chip away because it's the fastest move we can get to. Now it's able to go for the Power Up Punch. So the Fire Fangs, oh no, it actually goes for Iron Head instead. So they actually don't boost their Fire Fang. However, our Klefki is gone. We can bring out the Jellicent, take it down, and now against the Ferrothorn again. However, remember, they shielded in the beginning. So we can use our shield here. They're shieldless. So the key here is just trying to get to that Shadow Ball to knock out this Ferrothorn. So very, very close match there. I think if they didn't use their first shield in that beginning stage, we would probably be a sticky situation. So here we've got a great lead. They switched straight out into a Dugong, and we learned from the first match that we should get out of Dugongs. We didn't. We are stubborn and we stayed in. So advice is, if you see a Dugong, get out. We eventually got out of this situation. We brought in the Jellicent. Jellicent's able to absorb anything from Dugong. Because yeah, when they switched in, we should have gone, but you know, I stayed in because I thought Shadow Cacturne was funny and we could stay and do more damage. But no, they do more damage because I'm Shadow. I'm Shadow type, so get out of there. That's a lesson learned. Again, Icy Wind does here. They bring in their own Jellicent, but we've got an energy lead, so we can get to the Shadow Ball first. However, because they have got so much health, they're able to take this quite comfortably. They're still in the yellow. That's how comfortable they are. We won't be able to get the second one. However, that's okay. We have done our job with Jellicent here. Oh, actually, no, we decided to shield because we're like, oh, we're very close to it. We're going to bank it for later. We'll bring in the Cacturne. The Cacturne can sucker punch down as much as we could. We thought we could, but we couldn't, of this Jellicent, and now we can clean up, get the next hex in because we have reset the debuff, so that's already gone. We're back to normal hexes, and now they're thinking of going, what bring, and they bring in the Abomasnow. Now, Abomasnow is actually a particular Pokemon that I think has good coverage in Spring Cup, being also grass and ice type. So in the situation here, I was going for the Surf initially, but I was like, oh, I can actually make it to the Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball, and you can see how much damage that does. So we bring in the Klefki. The Klefki is doing all the Astonish damage with its fast attack. And now with this Weather Ball, it just chips at the Klefki. And they bring out the Dugong again. We get to the Foul Play. The Foul Play will take this Dugong out. And then really, we just got to deal with that Abomasnow. Oh, actually, the Abomasnow was already gone. I totally forgot. Into the final match, and here we have Cacturne versus a Ferrothorn. Now, from Bubble Mouse, she said that go for the Trailblaze, even though Dynamic Punch is probably the better option. Trailblaze here, and in this situation as well. Again, we've been Trailblazed, we're Shadow type, we're going for the next Trailblaze, so look how much damage that does to a Mantine. So that's so crazy. It's just on this much health. We can bring out the Klefki, farm away here, take whatever move they throw. They bring back the Ferrothorn. The Ferrothorn's already in yellow, probably about 30 to 40% at this stage. So we can chip again. They'll be able to throw a particular move here. Look, this Klefki can handle it, whatever they throw. A Thunder, yep, we're still into yellow. We're trying to Astonish down. And now this is the situation we don't want to see Klefki in. It does not want to see Mudboy. So we can see that it has a Quagsire here. We try and, really, I should have swapped out in this situation. I stayed. I shouldn't have stayed. Let's be honest. Now, because now they've got so much more energy. We're still in a pretty safe situation. However, I think if we were going to do this more cleanly, I should have got out there. Because now they went for the Stone Edge. We can get to the serves here. We're still quite comfortable in this situation. They decide to shield, and now they're shieldless. We have 2 shields ahead. We do decide to shield here. I don't think they managed to get to a Stone Edge. It is a Mud Bomb. However, we can now just see that the Ferrothorn is here. We shield this potential Thunder that is super effective. And yeah, we'll be able to here farm down the Ferrothorn, get to Surf and a half, really, on this Quagsire, and this will take out the Quagsire. So these are the games with Shadow Cacturne. Again, it's a little bit volatile, takes a bit of a while to get into the team, but once you get into it, I think it's a really fun one. And that's what I'm trying to go for this season, is more fun type teams. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll have our Patreons below and all the supporters, and also where to find Bubble Mouse as well for this team. Thank you so much for letting us host it and you know, show it to the world for the last few days of Spring Cup. See you all on the next one.